Hey guys, welcome back to Jess and Ray's Romance. I'm Jessin, and today I'm going to be doing a monthly wrap-up that's a little bit different. I've actually done this only once before, and I really liked it. So since I have not done weekly wrap-ups for June or mid-month wrap-ups for June, sorry if you can hear the weather in the background, we're getting a storm, which I'm happy about because we've been having heat advisories for the past almost 3 weeks now. Feels like 115, and I'm sick of it. My parents' pool was 95 degrees yesterday. It's insane. Back to books. Since I was not able to do the weeklies or the mid-months, I figured the best way to go over these books and not have a 2+ hour wrap-up video to edit was to do my rapid fire review. So in the past, when I did this, I had 30 seconds to tell you about the book and how I felt, and then the rating. And I used a timer to keep myself true, because if I make exceptions for certain books and be like, oh, well, this book needs a little bit longer time, it defeats the purpose. So I'm going to try my best to be as concise as possible. We'll see how well I do. Again, it gives me courage to attempt this, even though I know that there's books that I have so much to say about. I'm willing to do it in this format because I know that the books that probably need a lot more time for me to get my thoughts across, I'm gonna talk about them again in the future, so I'm not gonna worry about that. Actually, since I'm using my timer, I'm going to grab my laptop so that I can go down the list of all the books that I've read. I'm gonna be doing it in order that I've read them, so no order of like the best books to the worst books, it's just when I read them. Okay, so I have my timer ready to go, have my laptop with all the books, and I'm gonna let you know what the book is, who it's by, before I get into my 30-second timer, and then give you the rating that I gave the book. The first book is Cold Hearted by Heather Gear. This is the first book in her Tooth and Claw series, and go. Oh no, it's 1 minute. No, sorry, hold on. Now we go. Paranormal romance, woman's hiding in Alaska, and she stumbles upon a secret community of werewolves. She's unaware that they're werewolves, and the relationship kind of develops a little bit too fast, very focused on the physical attraction, and it's kind of like a hate to love thing, and I wish that more time was spent actually with the heroine and the hero getting to know each other instead of just denying that they had any feelings for each other at all. It just was too rapid. There's vampires, there's werewolves. It's kind of a Twilight retelling, but with Jacob as the hero. That wasn't bad. That was not bad. So I gave this book 4 stars. I am interested in reading the next book in the series, which I think is a vampire one instead of a werewolf hero. The next book is Remain Nameless by Hey Jude. This is actually a Hermione fanfic, so let's go. This is one of the favorite books that I've read this month. It is a Hermione fanfic, and Draco, it's 10 years like post Hogwarts, and they actually bump into each other at a Muggle cafe that they both have been frequenting for years, but he changes his routine, runs into Hermione. It turns into a year-long secret morning meeting, and it's like a slow burn friends to lovers. It is so sweet, so beautiful. Draco's in therapy, and this pairing is just absolutely ideal. It's a very long book, and I love it. 6 stars for this one. It is one of my favorite reads for June. I actually reread it later on in the month again. I read this book twice in 1 month because it just gave me all of the feels, and I'm still talking past the 30-second mark. Whoops. Need to rein it in. The next book is Good as Gold by Serena Bowen. This is tied into her True North series, but it's not like the main series. At least I didn't see what number in the series that it was, but it is tied into her True North series. They're recurring characters. So this is a second chance romance. Mateo and Layla used to be really great friends. It was actually a trio. Layla ends up by marrying the other person in that trio. Mateo's always had a crush on her, and he stayed away since they've actually gotten together. And it's years down the line, Layla has divorced, and she actually really wants a baby, and she's going to get a sperm donor. And she decides to ask Mateo, hey, do you want to be a sperm donor? And he's like, yeah, so he agrees to it. Bonkers plot, it actually really works. It's very sweet, and I really liked it. I gave it 4.25 stars. I very much enjoyed it. It wasn't like the best in the series, but still very solid. The next one is another fanfic. It's Isolation by Bex Chan. This is an 8th year Hogwarts kind of retelling. So Draco is forced to basically be in hiding, and Hermione is kind of like his guard. So it's a forced proximity situation, very small space. Draco remains toxic for a lot of it, and I just didn't find it as compelling as other fanfics that I've read, especially whenever you compare it to the only other fanfic that I read when they're still like Hogwarts age. It just did not blow me away at all. I didn't really care for them as a couple too much. I felt like Hermione was doing too much emotional work in this one. I gave this one 3 stars. The next one is Wait and Hope by Might Be Writing, another Hermione fanfic, my last fanfic of this month, I promise. This is an amnesia romance, if you like that Channing Tatum movie with Rachel McAdams where she loses her memory and he has to kind of like convince her like why they fell in love in the first place. This is what this is, except so much better. It's less angstier, and Hermione wakes up in the hospital, doesn't know what happens, hears Draco in the waiting room saying, I want to see my wife, and she's like, Harry, what is he talking about? And he's like, you're married to Draco. And she's like, what? She's lost 6 years, and she has to like come to terms that she married Draco, and he honestly is so sweet. I love this one so much. 6 stars. This is definitely another one that I want to reread in the near future. And also a companion book called The Beginning and End, which is like the background to how they originally fell in love. This didn't count for my 30 seconds because it's about another book. Okay, the next one, All of My Last by Megan Hawley. This is the first book in the Ladies of London series. I actually had to remind myself about what this book was about because I was like, I don't remember what happened in this book, so I had to go on Goodreads to read the synopsis. Whoopsie. So we start off with like a prologue in Liam and Jess are best friends, and they kind of like take their relationship to the next level when they're like seniors in high school, and Jess actually has to move away, lots of history with like her mom and stuff. And you end up by reconnecting in the present day. The problem is I thought their relationship was really cute when they were young, but there was really no work put into dating in present day. They just kind of like fell into each other's laps and started sleeping with each other. I just wasn't satisfied by their adult relationship, so it didn't quite work for me, even though the glimpses that we got of them being young and in love was really sweet. It just wasn't enough to make a lasting impression on me. I gave this one 3.75 stars because, again, sweet relationship, just didn't hit all of the marks that I was looking for. The next one is The Right Man by Aurora Rose Reynolds. I knew what I was getting myself into with this one because she tends to write very ultra possessive heroes, and they kind of have like almost stalkerish tendencies, but they're written to be very sweet. They're not written to be like a dark romance. So it's like a CEO and an employee kind of like dynamic, and he owns the building where she lives in, and he kind of like takes over her life, and she lets him, even though she protests a lot. She just kind of like, they start just dating randomly after she thinks he's the person that she's being set up as a blind date, and he just kind of goes along with it, basically lies. So yeah, so toxic kind of relationship stuff, but again, that's like Aurora Rose Reynolds' MO, and I don't know, I mean, I wasn't expecting anything different. I gave this book 3 stars. It's not something that I like absolutely love to read about, but I was in a weird mood after reading all those great fanfics. Like, I was like, I don't know what to do. I just want to pick up a book that I know what to expect from it, because I was afraid of being disappointed by books that I like really wanted to read, if that makes sense. Then I read another one, has a similar title to the previous book I talked about, Your Last First Kiss by Avery Maxwell. This is part of a series, and it's kind of, it's a more mature romance. So Penny is a divorcee, and she has 3 kids, and Dylan is part of like the security company, and he's been crushing on Penny. They've kind of been having coffee dates like every Wednesday, and he really wants to date her, but she's having so much trouble with her ex, and there's like a snowstorm. He ends up by kind of almost staying at her house because of the snowstorm, and he gets involved with her life. I really liked it. I just felt like they spent too much time talking about their relationship without actually being together. I wanted just a little bit more, but cute kids. I thought Dylan was amazing. He was a great hero. 3.75 stars for that one. This next one, A Perfect Engagement by Carla Cartoville. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced that last name. It's the first book in the Maidens of Marbury series, and I believe I got this book free, maybe through like BookBub. That's how I found out about it. And I've been kind of searching for more historical romances to read because, I don't know, I just feel like I've been in a little state of panic about historical romances because some of my favorite historical romance authors, like, they just have not said anything about what their plans are for the future for writing. Elisa Braden has no updates for her next book, and Lisa Kleypas has been quite silent after Devil in Disguise, and that worries me. So yeah, anyway, I've been trying to discover new authors, and I thought, why not? We're gonna try this one. The heroine, Charlotte, she actually has an almost like run-in near-death experience with a carriage. She ends up by getting quickly engaged to the guy who rescues her, and he's a Marquis. And he's actually a twin. She doesn't know this. His twin, Daniel, actually goes to the engagement party at her parents' house, pretending to be him at his twin's behest because he's like very like work driven. And what I liked about it was that the heroine quickly like knows, like, you're not the Marquis, who are you? And they keep up the pretense because she doesn't want to be embarrassed. And of course they start falling in love. But what I didn't quite like about it is Daniel has something that he's kind of hiding, and I didn't feel like that was well integrated into the story. So it was just like, okay. I gave it 3.5 stars. I'm very willing to try the next book in the series. Then I read Sweet Regret by Kate Bromberg, and this is a Rockstar romance. And definitely not as angsty as the words, but this is just a little aside. I think motorcycle romance and Rockstar romance are two genres of romance that I always have high hopes for, because on paper, like, I should love these books. I love rock music, I love tattooed heroes, bearded men, tortured men, found family type of stuff. Like, on paper I should like all of these, but none of them are ever really executed in a way that I end up by loving. So this was a little bit of a miss. These two kiddos were kind of like high school sweethearts, and it didn't work out. He goes on to be a rock star, and she falls pregnant after a couple years down the line. They meet again, and then they lose touch again. And so she has a secret baby, and it was just okay. Like, I just really didn't feel the romance between them. And she kept the secret very long. Like, I just didn't agree with her keeping the secret as much as she did. And the hero just wasn't anything to write home about. It just was a very forgettable book, honestly. So I gave that one 3.5 stars. It wasn't terrible. It just wasn't like anything amazing. Faded Hearts by Alina K. Field. This is a Macbeth kind of retelling. It's a very different feel from other historical romances that I've been picking up lately. It was interesting. So this is actually a second chance romance, and Finlay Macbeth was actually married, and there was a rumor that his wife cheated on him. He believed the rumors. He divorced her. She was pregnant at the time, and he insists, like, that's not my child. Ends up by being his child, and this is like 18 years down the line, and he's come back from war, and he sees his ex-wife at a ball, and they kind of start reconnecting, and he meets his daughter for the first time, but there's lots of plot and intrigue. I just thought it was quite obvious what the villain's intentions were, and I was a little bit frustrated. I was like, do something about him. He's like in your face being villainous. Like, do something about him. So like, it was good on the one hand. I liked the relationship, but the side mystery kind of intrigue plot was quite obvious, and it made it frustrating. 3.5 stars for that one. Next, I read A Gentleman's Honor by Stacey Reed. This is the second book in her Bastion Club series. I read, well, they have a prequel, like Captain Jack's something. Can't remember what the prequel is titled. That one, it really doesn't have too much bearing on the series as a whole, from what I can remember. And I read The Lady Chosen quite a while ago, but I do want to read the rest of the series. I do want to complete it. I have all of them in paperback, and they have some really gorgeous covers, really gorgeous step backs. Let's just show it off like for a second. Really love it. So A Gentleman's Honor. All of these gentlemen of the Bastion Club want to get married, and this heroine kind of falls in the hero's lap. She is actually masquerading as a widow. She's not a widow, she's a virgin heroine, but she needs to be kind of like a chaperone for her younger sister, who is beautiful, and she's hoping that her sister's gonna make a great match, kind of like Kate and Edwina from The Viscount Who Loved Me. I really like the dynamic between the sisters. She also has two younger brothers that she's hoping that she needs to take care of, and there is a murder plot that she kind of sort of is adjacently involved with. And that's how the hero kind of gets involved in her life, and he kind of bulldozes himself into her life. I like it because it was a lot of like actions and not words, like showing how into her he was. But it also wasn't my favorite book by Stephanie Lawrence by any means. It was just okay, so I give this one 4 stars. Okay, next one. Suddenly You, another historical. This was part of, you know, my attempt to read all of Lisa Kleypas's backlist, and I'm getting closer and closer to accomplishing that goal, so I'm very proud. This one, the cover, I need definitely to either put some glue on it or find another copy that the cover is not quite so detached, but I do love this step back as well. And yeah, interesting plot, okay? So the heroine is a novelist. She has published successful novels. She's independently like wealthy, so she can survive on her own, but she is turning 30 and she wants to basically hire a man to have sex with her for the first time. And she goes to this madam sends her a man. This man shows up, and she doesn't sleep with him, but he does get her off, and it turns out to be the owner. He bought the rights to her original book, and he has a bad reputation as a publisher, and she's vowed like to never work with him, and it's kind of like an enemies to lovers situation. I really love it, but there was a conflict. I'm sorry, I am gonna go for longer with this one because there was a point to the book where I was like, this should have been the third act conflict, but the book goes on a little bit longer than that, and I think that the pacing felt a little bit off because of it. Also a very kinky scene with raspberries, food play. Very interesting. I was not expecting that from Lisa Kleypas. I gave this one 4.25 stars. I really like the heroine and the hero. Banter was fantastic. Then we have Reckless by Elsie Silver, a new release for this month. Very excited about this book. It was a little bit of a flop for me though. I ended up by lowering my original rating. I gave it 4 stars, I think because I like the series as a whole. And I do like the characters, but it just was a little bit, the execution was a little bit disappointing. So let's start the 30-second timer and see how much I can fit into this. This also has a secret baby plot. I felt like it was very unrealistically set up. I didn't believe that it could have been a secret baby. It just did not work for me. That was one of the major things that I had with it. The other major issue I had with this book is that the sex scenes felt tonally different than the rest of the book. It felt like sex scenes that were written for erotica novels and not these small town romances. I just have a lot more to say about authors writing sex scenes nowadays. Like, it's just, I have a lot to say about that, but the relationship was really cute. Theo was really cute. I actually really like Winter as a character. It just is a little bit disappointing. Just a little bit disappointing. So yeah, 3.5 stars for that one. Next is Remember Love by Mary Balogh. This is the first book in her Ravenswood series. This is the book that series that she's currently writing, and it's gonna be like about a family. This is another second chance romance, and Devlin, he actually catches his father in a compromising position and calls him out on it, about him bringing his mistress to the house. And long story short, he becomes kind of like outcast from his family. He and his older half-brother go off to war, and they don't come back until like after the father is dead. And he reconnects with his kind of like, he almost was about like to propose to this girl, and he thought by now she should have been married, but she's not, and they kind of reconnect. Family dynamic is so interesting. Writing's really good. I just wish that there was a little bit more focus on the relationship. This book almost felt like a prologue to the series. Like, let's introduce the family. And it wasn't really focused on, to me, the couple. It was more focused on the family in general. So I feel like this book it was a prologue to the rest of the series. I don't know. I'm gonna read book 2 and see if it still has that same feeling where I feel like the relationship just needed a lot more attention in the book. But I still am very intrigued. I love the family, and I do want to read the rest of the series because I want the siblings to get their HEA. So I gave this one 3.75 stars. Next is Magic Claims by Lona Andrews. It's the second book in her Williamton Years series. It's a spinoff from the Kate Daniels series, and Kate and Kern are the main focus of this. I really love this series because it's like a lot of, like, Kate and Kern are already together, right? And but this adventure, they're so creative. Alona and her husband are so creative with the types of like villains that they insert into the story, and how, like, what Kate and Kern are fighting against. This one was so much fun, and also sets up a lot to do with Blood Heir. And I can't wait until we kind of catch up in the timeline so that we can get back to Blood Heir and Julie. I think that it was fantastic. I gave it 5 stars. I will pretty much always love Kate and Curran. This is one of my favorite urban fantasy series of all time, so Ilona Andrews is always a win for me, 5 stars. Next is Craving in His Blood by Zoe Draven. It's the second book in the Brides of Kylor series. They're kind of like berserker, vampire, winged demon looking things. It's sci-fi romance. If you haven't read the first book, I really like it, Desire in His Blood. The plot of this one is a little bit different. Millie is alone in the world. She's orphaned. She's trying to make enough money to get her father's body back to this planet, and she catches the eye. She works at kind of like a blood drinking facility, very high upscale, and the hero is brother of like the ruler of this section on this planet. I'm explaining it very terribly, I'm so sorry. But there's definitely a fated mate element in this book, and they are it, but he's pushing her away because he has a duty. He needs to marry into this family because of political connections. I did not like this one as much as I liked the first book in the series, but it wasn't terrible. It just wasn't as intriguing as the first book in the series. So I gave this one 4.25 stars. My battery's gonna die. I'll be right back. Okay, back with the program. The next book is Wretched Love by Anne Malcolm, the first book in her Sons of Templar series, and this is an MC romance. Again, I don't know what it was about me this month with trying the Rockstar romances and then trying some MC motorcycle romances, but yeah, they don't quite work for me. I still have yet to find my like perfect Rockstar romance, my perfect motorcycle romance. So this heroine is actually running away from her abusive husband. Her daughter is old enough, she's in college now, she's actually studying abroad, so she sees her opportunity and she decides to just like leave with like nothing, and she ends up in this small town states away and runs into a motorcycle group, and she has a one-night stand with this hero, Swiss. Don't really love that name. I don't know. And later on they talk about like cool nicknames that everyone has, and I'm just like, Swiss just doesn't sound like a cool nickname. Anyway, I digress. He basically becomes instantly obsessed with her, and their relationship was actually pretty cute, but like a lot of other things didn't quite work for me. I felt like the resolution with the husband, not the resolution, but the conflict, I guess, with the ex-husband was just a little bit too rushed, and yeah, it was just okay. It was okay. It wasn't terrible. It definitely gets props for this motorcycle group not like looking down on women, for sure. Like definite props. I gave this one 3 stars. Then I actually picked up the next book because the reason why I even picked up these books at all, someone shared Wilting Violets, which is book 2. And this is about the daughter, the one who is abroad, studying abroad for the first book, and her name is Violet, and it was marketed as an age gap romance. So I was like, I love age gap romances. That's what made me pick it up, but I want to read book 1 first. I really wanted to read this one. I definitely liked it less. It is a big age gap, and I don't know, the relationship just didn't work for me. I really didn't love the heroine. She felt very immature. It was just like a weird mix of, I want to kind of be a rebel sometimes, and I'm also like a rich girl, and I don't know, I just didn't love Violet's character. It also is a accidental pregnancy one, and I don't know, I just didn't feel the love with this hero and heroine. It was just very surface level connection. I just didn't love it at all. I definitely think the first book was better, unfortunately. I gave this one 2 stars. And then we have my Patreon books. So I actually read these kind of recently. I usually read them at the beginning of the month, and I do my vlog on them. So the patrons picked these 2 books. It's Under the Northern Sky and Strange the Dreamer. We'll talk about the first one. Under a Northern Sky by L.L. Meyer. This is a fantasy romance, and it doesn't have really like magic in it. It feels more kind of like just medieval historical almost, but it is a fantasy made-up world, right? So the heroine is actually been promised to this the hero, who's the leader of this barbarian clan. This is for an alliance. But on the way to actually marrying the barbarian, she gets accused of murder. She does actually murder a guy, but it's because he tries to assault her. And when she gets to the clan, she's treated very poorly. And immediately you're like, you're a murderer. And the hero was just absolutely dumb. He was a dumbass, and I hated him. Like, he frustrated me so much for just not questioning things. So I didn't quite enjoy this romance at all. I will not be continuing with the series. I gave that one 2 stars. And then finally, Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. This is the first book in a duet. So we have Strange the Dreamer and Muse of Nightmares. This is a fantasy romance. I don't think I could say enough about Strange the Dreamer in 30 seconds. I just think that the hero Laszlo is one of the most charming and enchanting points of views that I've read in a long time, and this world is so whimsical and fantastical, but so easy to grasp at the same time. I like the slow build. I like getting the background of Laszlo and the obsession that he has with this lost city of Weep and how he gets there. And I just, delicious. This does have a romance. It's very light, especially in book 1. But it was very romantic, incredibly romantic, and I gave this book 6 stars. It was fantastic, one of my favorite reads that's not a fan fiction of the month. Definitely top tier. Like top tier, it was my favorite book of June. And I immediately jumped into Muse of Nightmares, but I'm not gonna talk about that one. I'll talk about it in my weekly wrap up that I will be doing in July, because I gotta keep up with these books, man. I have too much to say to be doing these 30-second rapid reviews, even though I feel like this one went pretty well. But I do like to talk a lot about books. I have a lot to say. So guys, I hope that you enjoyed the rapid review. If you have any questions, if you want to talk about some of the books that I kind of only briefly skimmed over, drop some comments down below. Be happy to chat with you about that. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe to get notified on any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching, and remember, life's better with a little HEA. Bye guys.